I have been waiting for this for quite some time, and finally it is time to unbox my shiny new GPU. I did try my best to get the 4090 at launch, but I just wasn't fast enough to snag a Founders Edition. More infuriatingly still, 10 minutes after launch they were all on eBay costing 2200 GBP on average. But I guess that is the way of the world. Compounding the issue was that Nvidia only lifted the FE embargo the day before, with the partners card reviews only going live when it was time to buy, and for someone like me, not knowing what type of cooling, whether or not it has a vapor chamber, how many phases and which type, is simply a deal breaker, especially on such a high value item. While there was decent AIB GPU supply, the more desirable models at or around RRP didn't last very long, and I was about to discover while going down the comparison rabbit hole that not all 4090s are the same. Heck, they don't even ship with the same power adapter. That, and the fact that every GPU when it restocked simply got a few £100 more expensive, really left a bad taste in my mouth. After doing some digging, I was shocked to discover the true extent of their variation in PCB quality, ranging from 14-phase VRMs using 50 amp phases to some truly ridiculous design like the Supreme X Liquid 70 amp 26-phase design, with the sweet spot seemingly in the middle somewhere. All of my concerns might sound pedantic considering that this isn't really an overclocky monster or anything, but damn it, the coolers are dimensioned for 600 watts and there's plenty of room for experimenting just for fun. So having that taken away would have significantly dented my enthusiasm. There are a few exceptions, for instance the Asus Staf non-AC that is an amazing card launching at RRP and stayed there for about 10 minutes before being bumped over 2000 pounds, inexplicably has thick boy memory pads that make it perform subpar for GDDR6 thermals, but does allow you to go up to 33% extra power target, or the MSI X Trio, which doesn't have a vapor chamber for some cost-cutting reason, but does have a rather decent PCB. And do bear in mind that these are the better examples. I would have not known any of this in the first 10 minutes when they were on sale for close to RRP. Almost said reasonable prices there. Anyway, I babbled on for most of this unboxing without even acknowledging what is happening. Mostly because it's a month late, so I'm pretty sure the most who care about this GPU have seen better unboxing. I'm just a guy on the internet offering my opinion. If it helps you make a purchase decision, well, even better. The reason I purchased this GPU is as a replacement to my admittedly not that bad or old 3080. The big question now is, at almost 3 times the price, did I make a massive blunder or a savvy purchase? Let's find out together, shall we? It don't matter where we go. I need to preface this by saying that this time I made an exception and decided to go for shadow play on both GPUs instead of my capture card. This way the same penalty is applied to both cards and I don't need to worry about my capture card crapping itself due to the 4K input. Desktop is heaven, which measures pure raster performance and, well, not much else. And the results are crystal clear. The 4090 is simply double the performance of the 3080. Simple, clean and efficient. Or is it? But that isn't the most ridiculous thing about this test, not by a long shot. I reran it multiple times and got the same result. For the first time, well, ever, I can see the CPU actually needing to clock up and stay there, not just to do the scene transition and go back to base. I know this sounds like the nerdiest thing in the universe, but that's cool. Superposition is next, and just like heaven, the 4090 shows a functional doubling of performance versus the 3080. I forgot to set the 3080 power consumption in the graph, but it was using around 330 watts, which is only 50 watts short of the 4090. Looking back as far as I can remember, I have never experienced this sort of jump generation to generation. Yes, Pascal came closest, but it wasn't anywhere near this impressive, going from a 980 Ti to a 1080 Ti. This is more than double the frame rate on the same PC in the same conditions. Sticking with raster only tests, Days Gone. That is, well, it's CPU bottlenecking on a 16-core Ryzen 9 5950X. Yes, the doubling in performance pattern holds true in the real world scenario, but the reality is you could probably squeeze a few more FPS from the 4090 with an upgrade to Intel's 13th gen or Ryzen 7000. Really, I was afraid to run Farcry and soon my fears were justified. This is CPU bottleneck city. No way to sugarcoat the situation. My CPU simply can't keep up. At 4K. In a sense, this is vindication. When I purchased my old 980 Ti in 2015, I did so based on a promise of 4K gaming without compromise. It took Nvidia almost 8 years, but hey, they finally delivered. Control is the first ray trace benchmark we will be looking at, and it's not even a contest. I originally played this title on my then shiny new 2080 Ti at barely 50 FPS with stutters and dips, and I felt at the time that it was so good, even with DLSS 1.0, that even though the 2080 Ti barely delivered any performance increase over the 1080 Ti, it was money well spent for the experience. Well, now looking at the difference between a 3080 and a 4090, I think to myself, finally 4K high refresh rate gaming is well and truly here. Pity my 4K TV tops out at 60Hz then. Might need to remedy that soon. Pun intended. Assassin's Creed Valhalla was a bit behind the pattern at first glance, but then I looked at the power consumption. Well, yeah, the 4090 is doing very well here, delivering almost double the performance while using the same power. The Anvil engine has received some substantial updates this year that have massively increased its performance, but unfortunately there is no escaping the fact that this is all hat tech at this point, although with layers and layers and glitter to make it shiny. Horizon Zero Dawn was least impressive and most inconsistent from all the benchmarks today. The 3080 was actually, well, super consistent all throughout with good frame pacing and stable performance, but the 4090 ranged from double the performance to barely a 40% uplift. I am really not sure what to believe, but I suspect it is a combination of engine and driver optimization for the 30 series cards. I did see that this game was a common sore spot for a few reviewers, even them not quite knowing what to make of it. All this is not to say that the experience is, well, in any way bad, it just falls a little bit behind the expectations though. Finally, the one I think most people have been waiting for, as I saved the best for last, Cyberpunk. I wish I could just present the raw unprocessed footage to see what the difference there is, but I'm sure that even through YouTube's compression algorithm and all the processing this footage has gone through since being captured, I still see with the naked eye that there is significant pacing differences between the two presentations. Stick around till the end when I will present an overclocked Cyberpunk run. I will do a more in-depth video on this card's OC ability in the future, but for now, the conclusion. It's actually worth upgrading to the 4090 if you already own a 3070 Ti or above card. Well, it will surprise you to learn that after all the praises I've been singing it in this video, the honest answer is, well, no. The performance sort of justifies the ridiculous price unless you really are a hardware enthusiast and not just a gamer, in which case anything I or anyone else will say will not dissuade you from upgrading even to the overpriced partner models. For the vast majority of people, I think that as things stand, the high-end 30 series is simply the better value purchase, with that value skyrocketing if you purchase used. There is simply no way to beat the 3090 for a smidge over £600, and if you don't think you can get that, well, think again, as there are plenty of people willing to negotiate. One of my mates bought a 3090 FE for just $580 last week. My recommendation is, if you don't need to upgrade, skip the 40 series or wait for RDNA 3 before pulling the trigger. Yes, the 4090 is amazing as a Halo product, but with Nvidia backtracking once on the 4080 12GB debacle and straight up doubling the 80 card price gen on gen, it's very difficult to recommend opening your wallet wide. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it and see you in the next one.